9 problems to avoid when buying an older home. Number 1, the foundation. Generally, you'll have 2 types of foundations. You'll have a raised foundation and a slab foundation. The raised foundation is a perimeter. It may have post and pier. The slab is obviously poured on the ground. It's called a monolithic slab, basically about 4 inches in thick. The raised foundation, you may notice some serious settling going on, maybe cracks in the exterior perimeter wall. That might be from excessive water, maybe plumbing leaks under the house, or maybe you have a lot of water standing around the house, flower beds, basement, things like that. Uneven floors are a big thing too, and interior walls could have cracks, or the doors may not even open, close, or bind when you're closing them into the door jamb. These are all signs that the house has severe settling. It's not uncommon to have exterior cracks in the stucco, but if you have a slab foundation with cracks, you're also going to notice exterior stucco cracks that are horizontal, or maybe they're a step crack. That'll give you significant ideas about structural damage, cracks, settling, unstable soil. Okay, tip number 2, the roof. Obviously, there's different types of roof materials as far as, like, is it a wood shake? Is it a shingle? Is it asphalt composition? Maybe it's concrete tile. Anyway, you should always have a licensed home inspector or one who's certified. California doesn't have a licensing, but you know, there's a big step into getting one who is properly trained, educated, and one who has a certification. Otherwise, you can hire a licensed roofing contractor to actually go out and take a look at the roof. And you want to make sure that they crawl the roof and walk on top of the roof. If it's a tile roof, these guys are trained. They know how to walk on the roofs without damaging or cracking tiles. But this is really the only true way you're going to be able to tell the roof condition. Check the flashings, the penetrations. Is there any cracks, leaks? Is the valley clogged with leaves and debris that can cause leaks? Obviously, leaks can show up on the interior with water stains in the ceilings or the walls. Generally, you don't really know. Is that a stain? Is it a water stain? Is it a roof? Is it a plumbing leak? What is it? It may not rain for 6 months after purchasing the home. Hazardous materials. You especially want to know this if your home was built prior to 1978. It may contain lead based paint or asbestos. These both need testing. Most of the cases, laboratory testing to look at the results. It's a critical step in the home purchasing process, especially with an older home. And you do not want to leave this step out. Now you have to disclose it if you ever sell the home. It's a material fact. Get it tested. Make sure you stay to the end of my video because I have a bonus tip I'd like to share with you. When you're buying an older home, you really don't know unless you have it inspected. How's the electrical system? Does it have any major component failures? Is the system outdated? It could be a Zinsco panel or a Sylvania panel, which are known for electrical failures. And yes, if it overheats, it's going to catch on fire. Not to scare you, but the electrical panel is a big issue. In some cases where homes are overloaded, you've added or remodeled previous owners without changing the panel. The panel is now underrated for the house electrical system. And these are all critical steps to inspecting a panel, knowing exactly what you have at the time and the electrical wiring. It could have an old cloth Romex wire, or it could have knob and tube wiring, especially if it's old and built in the 30s and 40s. That's a fire hazard. So especially if the sheathing wears off and exposes the conductor. Now you have a whole new problem. You know, there's many types of plumbing, galvanized water pipes, copper pipes, PEX tubing pipes. A lot of older homes, you'll still see today the galvanized pipes, and they actually rust and corrode from the inside out. So you really don't know what the interior condition is. You know, is the water rusty? If it's been sitting and you run the water and it's rusty coming out of the faucet, or take the toilet tank lid off, look in there and see if it's got a lot of rust, sand, debris, things like that. So if it's copper piping, you know, there's defects in copper piping too. Not all copper is created equal. And yes, some of it's USA made, some of it is made in other countries, and it may be an inferior metal, thin metal, it corrodes, especially at the solder joints. When the installers don't wipe their flux off of the solder joint, now it becomes a corrosion issue, and your inspector should be able to tell exactly where that's at, especially in areas that's visible in the attic. If it's not visible in the attic, he's not going to be able to see it. But you still want to know what type of piping it has. And also the sewer piping is a big part of the inspection as well, because it may have, it's called Orangeburg, it's a clay pipe wrapped in tar paper, or it could have cast iron, right? Nowadays you have a plastic piping, ABS. It's called a drain waste vent piping. In the early 80s and 90s, there were some recalls on those type of pipes, the black ABS. They used the wrong kind of glue, and where it all slips together in the joints, it actually fractures, and so it cracks in the middle of the pipe where it's all glued together. Camera scope inspection. This will actually send a camera down the sewer line and inspect the inside interior condition of the piping to know, hey, does it have any dips in it? Is it flowing? Does it have standing water? Does it have any cracks? And the big culprit is a lot of tree roots, especially will encroach into the sewer pipes. And hey, after you buy the home, 6 months, 8 months, you might have a clogged sewer system. You have some major issues with your sewer, and you need to spend $10,000, $20,000 replacing it. So step radon and mold. These are two items that you really want to do some further testing. Check the house to see if it has this. Radon, you're not going to be able to smell it, see it, whatever. It is a gas that comes up from underneath the foundation, and it can actually encroach into the house system. So you want to know if the radon is actually accurate, high levels, low levels, non-existent. And mold. There may be mold in the house that you actually can't see, but some molds are visible. You could do sample testing, hire a professional, somebody who's trained, educated, sends the results in to have laboratory tested. There could be 20, 25 different types of mold, and how do you know what type of mold your home has? Is it hazardous, not hazardous? Is it healthy, unhealthy? But obviously no mold is really healthy. Inspection done first. Do we see any signs of mold? Do we have any bad smells? Any of that sort of stuff? Actually order a mold inspection first up when you're doing all of your due diligence period, all your inspections. That way you know ahead of time. Mechanical system, which is known as the heating and air conditioning system in a single family residence home. You want to make sure you have adequate and good heat and air conditioning before you close escrow. Through the inspection process, you want to test and evaluate these systems to make sure they function, they work. Are they producing enough hot air, cold air, and how's the circulation? Really, you want to know if the unit itself exceeds 12, 15 years, maybe 18 years. And if that's the case, you're gonna want to budget to put in a new system, because this old system may not have a useful life longer than 20, 25 years, and it may not last you but 2 or 3 years. So you need to know that going into it. And guess what? If you have an old system, it's not energy efficient. Other mechanical things in the home might be water heaters, boilers, circulation pumps, things like that, that also all need to have inspections done. These are mechanical. These are things that'll wear out. They have an age limit on these, so you really need to pay close attention to buying an old home and how is the mechanical system. Is it old and outdated, or is it good? Especially the air conditioner. Hey, you might move in the wintertime, you won't run it for about 6 months, and the air conditioning system, all of a sudden, the first time you turn it on, boom, goes out. And if you have a home warranty, it may or may not cover it. Don't really know. Is the insulation energy efficient? How's the level? And what's the depth, basically, in the attic, and what type? Different types of insulation. And some older homes built in the 30s, 40s, it may not even have any insulation, or the insulation might have asbestos or contain asbestos. You got to know, because if you need to have it laboratory tested to see if it has asbestos, you want to know that going ahead. During the home inspection process, the insulation is actually one of the items that they should inspect. They should be able to tell you the depth of insulation, the rating, R value. If the insulation is poor, has a lot of traffic through the attic, it's going to actually drop the level down to areas for cause of heat rise and heat gain or heat loss. Whether it's air conditioning or heating system, winter, cold, hot summer temperatures, you always want to make sure you have good, adequate air conditioning, insulation, and ventilation. The ventilation is just as important as the insulation, because you want to make sure the home actually is circulating air properly. Number 9, health and safety. This actually is smoke and carbon detectors. In the state of California, there are certain regulations for requirements for carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. The placement in the hallways to the bedrooms. Do you have a 2-story, one detector on each floor, each bedroom? These are all state requirements, and you want to make sure that your home is safe and it's ready when you move in, that these things are functioning and operating and safe. All right, guys, bonus tip. Budget for your closing, right? The biggest concern for most buyers have is, what is the cost of repair or improvements? Don't really know. Maybe you have a figure after having the inspections done and you see where the house is, and you can put a budget together. So those improvements, upgrades, you'll have some money set aside, especially for emergencies too. Take your list from the inspection and prioritize it right after you close escrow, before you move in, and that way you don't have to live through all the construction dust and all the headaches with that. So, hey, if you like this video today, make sure you subscribe to my channel and watch my next one coming up next week as we post weekly videos. Our next video is going to be about how much do you lose when selling your home as is.